They tried to humiliate a black woman soldier. She answered by flying an F-22 Raptor. She stood there, trembling under the glare of commanding officers, the weight of her uniform suddenly feeling heavier than ever. "Take it off," one of them said, as if her very presence in the military was a mistake. Every eye on the base seemed to burn judgment into her skin, a reminder that no matter her training, her skill, or her dedication, prejudice could still strike. But they had no idea what she was capable of. In the silence that followed, she turned, her mind racing, and the sky above became her canvas for the ultimate answer. Serena Mitchell had always dreamed of flying. Growing up in a small town, she spent countless nights staring at the stars, imagining herself cutting through the clouds in sleek, supersonic jets. Her passion led her to the Air Force, where she excelled against every expectation. She was disciplined, precise, and fearless. Her instructors often said she had a natural talent for aerial maneuvers, a sixth sense for the sky. But talent alone could not shield her from the world below. Serena had noticed the stares the moment she arrived at her new base, whispered comments about her gender and race, subtle hints that she didn't belong in a cockpit meant for someone else. She ignored them, focusing on her mission, earning respect through skill rather than confrontation. Yet one day, during a routine briefing, she faced the ultimate humiliation. A senior officer, believing it was his right to assert dominance, ordered her to remove her uniform in front of the squadron. The request wasn't about regulation. It was a power play, a stark reminder that prejudice lingered even in a place devoted to discipline and honor. Every fiber in Serena's body screamed indignation. She felt the injustice like a physical weight pressing against her chest, but she also felt something else, a determination that refused to be broken. This moment, meant to diminish her, would instead fuel a response that no one on the base would forget. She left the briefing room without a word, her uniform perfectly intact. The whispered snickers followed her down the corridor, but she ignored them, focusing on what she did best. Hours later, she climbed into the cockpit of an F-22 Raptor, her hands steady as if the world outside didn't exist. The engines roared to life, vibrating through the floor and into her very bones. Above her, the sky waited, vast, open and free from the limitations imposed by others. As she ascended, memories of every slight, every dismissive comment, and every assumption about her abilities burned bright in her mind. Each one was a challenge she was determined to meet head-on. She executed precision maneuvers, loops, and dives with a skill that left even the most seasoned pilots in awe. The Raptor responded to her commands as if it recognized her strength, soaring higher with every heartbeat. Back on the base, the officers who had humiliated her stared at radar screens in disbelief. They could see only her aircraft, a small dot at first, performing impossible maneuvers that defied expectations. Their smirks faded into confusion, and finally, a grudging respect. Serena's flight was a silent but undeniable statement. She belonged here, not because she had been told, but because she had earned it. Each maneuver became more daring, a mix of artistry and power. Her flight traced intricate patterns across the sky, almost like writing a message to the world below. Do not underestimate me. The spectacle drew other personnel to the observation decks, watching in awe as the humiliation intended to break her became a display of triumph. And yet, Serena didn't take reckless risks. Every twist, every loop was calculated, demonstrating that courage was not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. She felt the wind against the canopy, the sun glinting off the Raptor's sleek frame. And in that moment, she wasn't just a pilot, she was a force that prejudice could not touch. As she reached the peak of her demonstration, Serena pulled the aircraft into a final, breathtaking maneuver. A sharp climb, a spin, and a dive that showcased perfect control and absolute mastery. On the ground, those who had doubted her could only watch, mouths agape, as the impossible unfolded before them. Every nerve in her body screamed with exhilaration, but she remained calm, precise, every motion deliberate. The moment wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. She had been told she didn't belong, that her uniform was a symbol she had no right to wear, that her skill could never surpass their prejudice. But here she was, commanding a machine of incredible power, executing maneuvers that no one else could replicate. The sky became her stage, and she told a story of resilience, defiance, and undeniable ability. As the Raptor leveled off and soared toward the horizon, Serena's eyes scanned the base one last time. The faces watching from below were no longer filled with mockery. They were filled with recognition, perhaps even awe. She didn't need to speak. The flight itself had delivered the message. Every command, every twist, every moment of controlled daring had rewritten the narrative. She wasn't just proving herself to them. She was proving it to herself, to every young girl, to every person who had ever been told they didn't belong. When Serena finally landed, the engines wound down and the roar faded. Silence blanketed the tarmac. The squadron approached cautiously, unsure how to react to the display they had witnessed. And then, slowly, respect replaced hesitation. Nods, murmurs of acknowledgement, the quiet but unmistakable recognition that she had done something extraordinary. Serena walked off the jet, her uniform pristine, her head held high. The humiliation that had been intended to diminish her now felt absurdly small against the magnitude of what she had accomplished. She hadn't just flown an aircraft. She had taken injustice and transformed it into a story of triumph. That day, the base learned a lesson far more important than any training manual could teach. Courage, skill, and determination cannot be limited by prejudice. Serena became an example not just of exceptional piloting, but of resilience in the face of systemic bias. Her story echoed far beyond the base, inspiring countless others to rise above doubt, discrimination, and fear. And in the quiet moments after the engines cooled, Serena looked up at the sky once more, asking silently, "How many more barriers can we break if we refuse to let prejudice define us?"